I've got the looks and the charm of an old movie star. Cary Grant, if you will, so I find it bizarre that this girl should refuse to step into my car. She must be shy, she'll come around, it's just a matter of time. Aurora, Aurora.
Hey there, Screen Beans, and welcome to Screen Snark, the podcast that celebrates all of the shows that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts. I am Rachel Corky Shank, radio host.
I am Matt, aka Stormageddon. Oh my god, the fact that we both did it at the same time proves to the internet that we share a brain, and it's a little scary.
Divided by time and quarantine, but still same brain.
Still same brain.
Ugh.
And I am very excited. It is another return guest. We haven't had many, but this return guest was our debut guest, the first guest we ever had on this pod. That's right. You know him. You love him. He's amazing. The incredible Viktor Devonne is back.
Hello. I'm no longer just on the pilot. I'm canon officially.
You're officially
Excellent.
canon. But you are the guest that launched this incredible podcast.
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad the network picked it up. So.
The face that launched 1,000 guests.
Exactly.
Viktor Devonne.
Or 75 guests, as he will be episode 76.
All right,
Well,
I'll take
we got to crank that up because we have had double guests in the past.
That's true. So
Yeah.
so the guest number is a lower count, but he'll be episode number 76.
Yeah.
Because
It's
I'm
all
keeping
very
count.
fascinating banter. Just wanted to
Yes,
know that.
this is hey.
This is what everyone tunes in for.
This is the content they crave. This is a
is.
fine podcast.
It's really more of a statistics podcast than
Right,
anything.
exactly at this
Yeah.
point.
So everyone take out your spreadsheets.
Okay, we're gonna aggregate a scatter plot.
Well, my
Um,
pleasure to be here. Glad I missed you
Yeah.
both. Glad you're
We-
doing well.
I
Yeah.
miss you too. I am very lucky that during the quarantine, Viktor and I have stayed in quite constant contact and try to have in the beginning we tried to have like monthly calls. It didn't last because both of us are very busy, but we've still stayed in
We still like each other's shit on Facebook and on Twitter and stuff.
That's
So
true. And that's what really matters. if
And
you think
I
about it.
sometimes watch you play video games.
That's also true. You do that. But I'm very excited to have you here, Viktor.
Mhm.
And we'll catch up with you and all you've been doing in just a little bit. But as always, we will start the show by talking about the most recent thing we've watched. And I, as always, will go first. And I have made Rachel very proud by seeing a movie of a franchise that she is a recent comer to, but has been praising.
And if this is the movie that I think you're talking about, an acolyte of this film
An
series?
acolyte.
Thank you.
And I will say that I loved the hell out of it, only having seen the first 3 in the franchise and still think I didn't miss that much. But of course, if you haven't figured out by context clues, I have brought F9, the 9th movie in the Fast and the Furious franchise.
It's Fast and Furious in space, right?
I mean, sort of. They go there.
Yeah, a bit.
I guess I'll say spoilers for Fast and the Furious, but I feel like you can't spoil a movie like this because the biggest spoiler was in the trailer,
Yeah.
which was
Is
the
this
reveal.
not a fully spoiler-free? I'm sorry. Is this a fully we don't do spoilers too terribly much?
I mean, it depends on the movie. If you're talking about something that's
okay.
on the older side,
I
But-
can answer this. We
Please.
don't do spoilers if our guests want spoiler free.
I
right?
see.
We do spoilers if we all agree,
If we
on,
all
the,
agree.
on the radio.
I'm-
that it's
I'm-
fine.
I'm cool with spoilers myself. So
Okay.
please spoil Fast and the Furious 9 for me. Storm
So I mean, the funny thing about seeing this movie is I mean, I like the first 2 movies well enough, and I actually loved Tokyo Drift before it was cool to love this series. I want to go on record because most people hated that movie when it came out, I feel like. But then I never saw the rest of them. I don't know why. I guess I just didn't keep up with them. And then, of course, mutual friend of Rachel's and I, Patrick Willems, has lauded these movies on the internet to no end.
Mhm.
And so I was inspired recently to start watching the rest of the series with my spouse, but we didn't get to it. We watched some other movies and like had fallen behind. And then I had a friend in town from Georgia. He was visiting New York. He's looking for prospective areas to move. And we were taking him around town. And he's like, hey, do you guys want to see a movie? We're like, sure. And the only thing available with tickets was F9. And none of us have seen most of the franchise. Our friend Ken, who was visiting, had seen none of the movies. My friend Jesse, I think, had seen the same amount of movies as me. Previous guest of this show, the incredible Jesse Vitelli, had seen maybe 4 of them. And I had only seen the first 3. And we were like, sure, why not? I've heard that this is one of those movies that it won't matter. Dear listener, it doesn't matter. I will say that the context of some of the stuff might have been cool. Like some of the later plot stuff, like with Mr. Nobody, might have mattered more because I didn't have a lot of context for that.
Mr. Nobody, yeah.
But like
so many movies are done where they only tell you so much, and then they'll later retrofit it into like an earlier. So it's almost, I mean, at this point, especially if it's a series, sometimes it really doesn't matter.
No.
And with a movie that's as much flashback as this one is, it's kind of this weird Ouroboros of fantasy car movie. It's gonna come back to the beginning.
It's wild, and like it felt like an episode of Arrow to me, actually, because it was a lot of like movies happening, and then we flash back to Dom's past to give context to what's happening in the present. And especially in the first 2 seasons of Arrow, they did that a lot. Like they would flash back to the island to give you the context of what Oliver's about to go through. And I thought that was actually a pretty neat structure to see it in a movie, because I can't think of a lot of movies that have done it, though I know there are. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, it escalated in a way that I'd been told it would, but I didn't believe that they escalated like this until I witnessed it. And I just loved every second of it. The cast is incredible. Vin Diesel has come around back to charming. He was hot and like, you know, did goofy stuff, and like I didn't always think was a super charismatic actor, but as he's done more stuff and then has leaned into the just bonkersness of these movies, has come back around to actually being really intriguing and engaging and charismatic in a way that I wasn't prepared for, especially in this movie.
Weirdly, in a way, Vin Diesel is a wrestler turned actor who skipped the wrestler part.
Yes, I would agree.
Like the ebb and flow of his career. Then all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, right. Vin released 2 like pop songs and I love them.
Yes.
Unironically. Are you kidding me? Like,
And you're right, because like you look at folks like The Rock and John Cena, who have both now been in this franchise, they did exactly that. And I also feel very much the same about John Cena. He's an actor who I've always liked as a wrestler. He's goofy, he's really great with kids, and he's really cool. He does some really good stuff for the community. And like then when he started acting, I was like, oh, look at this dopey dude who's just, I forget, I think it was Scott was saying it on the Infinity Pod, or it might have been you. Someone said that he is a non-everyman looking person who has convinced the world still, John Cena, that he's the everyman.
Yeah, that's a collective Infinity podcast take where like he is so jacked, but his best win beleaguered.
Yeah. And it's just wild to me because I never realized that, but it's absolutely true.
Beleaguered John Cena is the name of my my next band.
Nice. I love it. They Might Be Giants cover band.
Yeah.
Beleaguered John Cena.
We do a couple cake covers for fun as well.
Right, of course.
Just to mix it up, you know.
But to actually talk about the movie itself, like I loved, like I just like the running gag about these movies is they're about family, you know, and
that was very good.
Thank you. I didn't even expect it to be any good, but here we are.
It came from a place.
It came from a place.
Wow.
I am Groot. I don't know. Anyway.
Wow.
But like what? And so I went into these movies expecting the meme, right? Like, oh, it's about family. There's no real plot. But honestly, this movie being about family had more heart than a lot of other movies I've seen try to do this more seriously. And that I was not prepared for. A friend of mine said, who has not seen any of them, he's like, every time there was an emotional moment, he felt like a guy who was stuffing his face in the kitchen and then walked into an awkward family moment. Because he has none of the context. He's just in these emotional moments that were emotional. And I was like, that's a good example. Like, thankfully, I had seen 3, so I had enough context for Han that a lot of that stuff hit, especially when I got to see Bow Wow again, who made me feel very old because Bow Wow is a tiny child.
He once was little Bow Wow. Yeah.
Little. Yeah. He's no longer little. He's just Bow Wow.
Just a regular-sized Bow Wow.
Regular-sized Bow Wow.
That's my cover band. Regular-sized Bow Wow.
Bow Wow. But
now
like,
we do cake covers, but someday might be giants. That's
there you go. There you go.
You know, we play alternating Wednesdays.
Exactly. But like, I genuinely enjoyed the movie. I had fun watching it. The heartfelt moments really hit, and there was emotional weight. And then the comedy was actually pretty well executed. To the point where, like, so there's a moment in, I guess if you don't want any spoilers, even context spoilers for Fast 9, skip ahead about 10 minutes, you should be safe. But I want to talk about a conversation where Tyrese is talking to Ludacris. Sorry, I'm not going to say the character names because I know the actors better, but is talking to Ludacris.
We know who you mean, though.
Yeah, and I know that you mean Roman and Tej.
Yes, Tej.
I'm over here knowing.
By the way, who knew that Ludacris would be an excellent actor also, because he's actually very good in this movie, and I've been a fan of his music for ages. But there's this moment where Roman is talking about how he was surrounded by guards, shot at, and nothing happened, and he starts to talk about, like, what if we're like special, like trying to have like the superhero narrative conversation. Yep. And Tej, Ludacris's character, instead of just dismissing him, leans in and starts to go, oh my God, are you saying, and like really playing it. And I'm like, there's no way this movie is going to go into superheroes. And then, of course, after like 3 minutes, he goes, or maybe you're absolutely crazy. And then they just laugh at him. And I was like, I love like that kind of a thing only works now after almost a decade of superhero movies. That's why that scene is funny. And that's really smart writing to me.
Yeah, this one got so winking and noddingly self-aware in moments where I was just like, okay, we're gonna Ferris Bueller the shit out of one of these at some point, and Finn's just gonna barrel the camera and be like, I bet you're wondering how we got into this mess as a family, you know. And then they're gonna have mechs, and it's gonna be a musical. This film franchise has it all, and it will have more. It's so delicious. The moment goddamn Charlize Theron with that goddamn supervillain haircut that I cannot believe isn't straight out of a comic book, sending me to heaven, talking about like if this were a movie. I hate that, but I loved it in this moment where I was like, okay, yeah, now tell everyone that you're Charlize. This is all an illusion, and then everything's gonna be fine. Court jester that shit, please. Danny Kaye style, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, and also like you can tell that like because when Vin Diesel first started making these movies, it wasn't apparent that he was a giant nerd, played D&D, loved comic books. But now like there's a ton of Star Wars references. Like
that was his whole point of doing Chronicles of Riddick, right?
Right, is he was turning that into a movie. It was a comic book, right? Mm-hmm. It was in Chronicles of Riddick comic book or something.
I thought it was a tabletop game.
Oh no, yeah, it was based on maybe a tabletop system. But regardless, like it's fun to see this stuff come through because obviously Vin has had so many movies under his belt now that he is a giant star beyond just the Fast and the Furious stuff. I mean, he is Groot, as he likes to say often. Like it's really actually filled me with so much joy. And for this to be my first movie back in the theater to see on a big screen, like there's a magnet fight. And I'm not even going to explain that. But there's a magnet fight.
Because the movie doesn't either,
no.
By the way.
No.
There's no...
It ignores the science part.
This is D&D just run amok with cars.
Yeah, it is. Oh, and when you made your take on the Infinity Pod as well, which you should go subscribe to because they're awesome.
Yeah, please do.
When you compare... So I know, Victor, you probably haven't played a lot of D&D, but typically in long-running D&D campaigns, eventually your characters break beyond the meta of the table because you're so powerful. You've been together so long that it's like impossible to keep things grounded. Mm-hmm. So you just do the most ridiculous stuff. And Rachel made this comparison to the Fast and the Furious movies. Like it's like a long running D&D campaign.
Yeah. I can absolutely imagine like the players at the table, one of them like probably half drunk, half high, just being like, we've been through like so much stuff. Do you think we're magical? Like, do you think this in any way is strange or odd? And then the DM's just behind the screen, just seething.
Yeah.
Like, what are you? I have to rewrite so many things now. They're gaining an understanding.
Well, I have not done proper D&D. I have done Call of Cthulhu and Star Wars, which are both D20 systems,
Mhm.
and run the gamut. So I have filled out a character sheet or two.
Okay. Well,
So I have some familiarity.
Excellent.
So.
But like I also love that it's clear that they're having so much fun. These actors, like they brought back our actors from Tokyo Drift, folks that we thought we'd never see again. And
is that technically a spinoff?
no, it's now it's considered canon of it's considered canonically the third movie, but at the time it was a spinoff.
Yeah, in the production history of this, the first few movies, they were trying to figure out, like, what is a Fast and Furious movie?
I mean, aren't we all asking that about ourselves?
Aren't we? Even today, just
the eternal question.
What does it mean? Because, like, the first one has Paul Walker and Vin Diesel. The second one just has Paul Walker. Then the third one has no one from the original franchise at all. So I think they were trying to juggle, like,
it's like the Halloween series.
They thought it was going to be more, like, anthology-based, like, rotating street racing characters, but then like I think Vin got sort of like EP rights on it at some point, and then was just like, no, it's about this and like got everybody back, like because Vin Diesel is actually Dominic Toretto in real life. And assembling a team, you know.
Well, what's interesting also is like the actors from Tokyo Drift haven't really been acting since that movie, and yet they're here.
Yeah.
Killing it and just jumping right back into those characters, and I love that kind of meta narrative as well. Or even like Dom's sister, who's the actress whose name I always forget. She hasn't been in every movie either. Like she hasn't been in them for a little while, but she was of course crucial to the first movie. And
not Michelle Rodriguez.
No, the other young woman who's
Mia.
Mia. She plays Mia.
The
internet's yelling at us.
Yeah, because by the end of 7 into 8, Mia was supposed to be retired from the game with Brian.
Right.
So like bringing her back for this one was kind of special.
Jordana Brewster.
Thank you, Jordana Brewster.
Who I will always think of from The Faculty.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. That movie.
That's a good pull.
The Faculty. Woof.
Excellent movie.
Oh, the images of that movie just flooded my mind.
There. All this Jon Stewart with a pencil in the eye.
Like a packet of sugar in an Are You an Alien test.
It was like sniffing a pen full of caffeine powder. That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, enough about The Faculty.
Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I brought you to a dark place, Rachel. I'm sorry.
It's a place that I like to dwell in sometimes. Frankly, it was a little bright in here anyway.
But
she returns.
But no, I love that they bring back actors who haven't been in the series for a little while. They and like, you know, again, it was in the trailers, but like a character who dies turns out to be alive, and like typically when movies do that, especially after a long period of time, it feels cheap. But this movie's logic, though batshit, is somewhat sound for the kind of world they're building, and that also is truly astonishing to me. I had so much fun watching it. I kept like every time the movie escalated, I would throw my hands in the air like, okay, yeah, I guess here we are now.
Let's go.
Let's go to space. Why not? Science doesn't matter. We're duct taping
Magnets
our underwater
matter.
suit.
Oh, I love this movie.
It's just it's really goofy and dumb and a lot of fun. And I would say if you were someone who is curious about the hype of these movies and hasn't watched any of the others, you can absolutely go to this movie and understand what they're trying to do. And if you let go, if you just go along for the ride, you'll have fun. If you're going to this movie and sitting there going, well, I need this, or I'm expecting that, then you're screwed, because this is just a wild ride. And if it's like going on a roller coaster, essentially, it's just a roller coaster ride, but it has some emotional moments that really do hit. And like, the actors are all compelling on screen. Like I've said before, I really like John Cena. I'm looking forward to the new Suicide Squad. I think he's going to be great in it as Peacemaker. But like, I think that I think if you give this movie a chance, you'll really enjoy it. And like now I'm really excited to go back and watch all the other movies because I have the context of where it's going.
I've only ever seen the first one.
Oh my gosh.
Gotta watch him, Victor.
Yeah, because it goes from like Point Break-esque bromance. The law will never end our camaraderie and our friendship. Nothing will stand in the way of this. Very Tinder-like. I just always think about Vin Diesel delivering the monologue about why he ended up in prison. And it's just like gut-wrenching to hear this. And he becomes sort of like this car Ubermensch who can never lose ever and can like fly a car using bridge rope. It's great.
Who among us?
Where you know what, where you start isn't always where you end up. And this is sometimes you become a sad boy super spy. Who knew? I mean, there's literally a scene where it feels like a wrestling match where Vin Diesel is sacrificing himself and he literally grabs giant chains and pulls down the roof like the Incredible Hulk. Yeah. There's no explanation. They never talk about it. He just does it. Doesn't matter.
It's amazing.
They caught Michelle Rodriguez with a car like 3 movies ago.
And they did it again in this movie, I think.
It's how it works here in this universe. You can just drive your car good enough that you stop a body from impacting the ground too bad. It's perfect.
It's just wild. You should go see this movie. If you want to have fun and laugh, go see this movie. It's genuinely a good time.
Yeah.
Into it. All right.
So Matt, if you had to sum up F9, cinematic event of my life, in just 3 words, without using fast, 9, furious, Charlize's bowl cut taking me to heaven, how would you describe this piece?
It's this piece. I'm sorry. My heart sings.
Family. It's got to be one of the words.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
It's got to be.
Cars.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Good. It's perfect.
Doesn't always got to be
like racing movies that take themselves too seriously. No. I think we're past that.
Think so. I do too.
We need big huggy punch boy soap opera.
I love a genre movie that's like, we're a genre movie. What about it?
Yeah, yep. And like the fast genre franchise is soap opera for bros.
It's literally wrestling on screen. Like that's what it is. It's absolutely wrestling.
We've had Amnesia, Secret Brothers, dead people who aren't dead. It's got it all.
It's literally the WWE.
Explosions. Like what are we why we're selling Dawn. That's what we're doing here.
Excellent. We'll go see that, and I will report back once I've watched more on the franchise, as they will probably appear periodically on the show.
Oh, boy. Then we got to watch the animated series that involves Dominic Toretto's cousin.
Wait, there's an animated series?
There's an animated series that involves Dominic Toretto's cousin.
Amazing.
It doesn't look very good. I've watched some of the first episode. I did not find it enjoyable.
But you got to complete it. You got to completionist. You got to do it.
Hey, I watched Hobbs and Shaw. That's enough.
That's fair.
That's as far away from this franchise as I'm willing to step.
Well, Rachel, moving on from F9 into what you've brought us. Rachel, what is the most recent thing that you have watched?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think about the best way to get into this. Do I either reference our previous guest of the Macaw podcast universe, because talking about series got me very excited and interesting? Do I talk about how, as of this recording, the culmination of Pride has been upon us in the last few days of Pride? And I say nay. I say Pride is 365. So now in the future where we are, I am saying proudly that I watched one of the greatest LGBTQI plus cinema trilogies in history. I'm talking about The Matrix, made by the Wachowski sisters.
Excellent.
And I'm bringing the trilogy.
The whole trilogy.
The whole trilogy. Right. I watched all 3 of those beautiful babies. Sweaty, tired from marching, needed it, and didn't know I needed it as bad as I needed it, because frankly, I'm here to speak justice and truth to the brilliance that is the sequels of The Matrix.
Oh, see, I'm one of the very few who likes the second one, so
they're great. And if you watch them with their togetherness in mind, because like they were released 6 months apart. This is not like they buttoned it and you gotta wait for Thanos and all of that garbage. It was like boom, last shot, first shot. They're seamless. And things that are dropped in the second movie come to fruition in the third movie in a way that it's like, this is one very long movie and should be watched as such, because like stuff that's set up is paid off in very subtle ways that like if you're not watching them close enough together, you might be like, okay, who's this jabroni on the train platform? He's the guy from the shot in the other movie. Your brain saw him. Trust me, your brain saw him. They're glorious. They're decadent. They're leather clad. They're celebratory. They're struggleful. They're mythic. They're everything. They're beautiful pieces, and I can understand like why these gorgeous minds of the Wachowskis would make stuff like Jupiter Ascending and Speed Racer, greatest cinema event of the 21st century. At me, don't even. It's so fun too. Like what I love so much is because the first movie is very mysterious. Like Morpheus, not Orpheus, different
not
mythology.
Morpheus and then Neo, two different.
And Neo, yes, gives you so very little to go off of. You go to the Oracle to find the path, the one, all of this stuff, like, and then it's just like balls to wall action, bullet time.
It's another very D&D situation.
A very D&D situation, very much like
you enter the fetish club.
Exactly, and it rules, and it's so good. And they all wear sunglasses all of the time, no matter what. It rips.
This
is very
movie
impressive.
and
It's very impressive though when you consider how many like reflective surfaces and you don't see a camera in them.
Yeah, and when you do see something in the reflection of the glasses, it is integral. Like the iconic shot of Keanu sitting with Morpheus's hands. One has the red pill, one has the blue pill, and one is reflected in one eye and the other reflected in the other eye. But Keanu's in both of them, like almost making the decision in this like split universe moment. Because he's us. This is gonna. Oh my gosh! And then just like the dissection of the idea and understanding of like what is control, who has control, the entire sequence where they're in the engineering section and they're talking about like, well, we could turn off the machines if we wanted to. We have the control, but what would happen to our air? What would happen to the light what would happen to the electricity? Who really is in control here? Because we say we can turn these machines off that power Zion. But it was really
dense. More of a defunding that I would say.
We need to defund the machines.
Defund the machines.
Yeah.
And the particularly violent ones. Let's just abolish those.
Let's abolish the violent machines.
Just go right
ahead. Those particularly nasty ones. The ones that fight fires, they can stay.
I'm so glad that you brought these movies.
Yeah.
So I've always loved the Matrix trilogy. I always liked the sequels as well. I think that the big problem the Matrix sequels had is a similar problem that a lot of science fiction lauded by white, straight, sweaty nerds is that the first Matrix was too good for its own good. And what I mean by that is in isolation, the Matrix is way smarter than I think. Not that necessarily it needed to be, but it was a very intellectual film in a way that the sequels weren't. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if they were closer in proximity, or we just managed our goddamn expectations a little, like there wouldn't have been that backlash. It's the same way, like I've revisited the Star Wars prequels, which are by no means great movies, but taking time from the initial release, if you removed Star Wars from the prequel trilogy, they'd be average sci-fi movies. They'd be perfectly okay sci-fi movies. The thing that makes them bad is that they're Star Wars movies, and Star Wars nerds have this arbitrary seal of quality that is required for them to be good, because even Jar Jar Binks is a character who can be obnoxious. For a child's character is not that strange or not that unusual, especially for the time.
Well, I mean, in the 83, I think there was this huge backlash against the Ewoks,
Yeah.
who nowadays
Are loved.
Exactly. You have to have enough time pass. And nostalgia does play a huge factor.
Of course.
And I think that like approaching media from a place of killing your own ego and coming into this, because having watched all three of these movies, or two of them, because I'm just considering the sequel as one movie, and I'm just doing it from now on.
Were they filmed at the same? No, they weren't quite filmed.
They were filmed
roughly
at the same time.
Okay.
Again, released 6 months apart. Cannot.
Which is not that long in film time.
No, not really. No. Oh boy, I grasped my thought and then I lost it. But sorry. I think it's just a matter of like, what logical conclusion do you think a series is going to go to?
Right.
Just get rid of that from your brain, because like while the first Matrix movie is a lot of like mystery, intrigue, heavy action, you know, like
it's noir.
It's very noir. It's very stoic.
It's what is that?
Cyberpunk
noir. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely cyberpunk noir. And like that's what you get. You get a piece where like guy becomes one. How cool is that? Bullets, they don't hurt. Who cares? Roll credits. You know, like that one's so individualistic, and expanding that world kind of means you have to sort of like expand like the socio-politic around it, because like in the first one, Zion is only spoken about. In the second two,
that's true.
Zion is shown. You see the people, you see how they live, you see how they like survive and struggle and all of this, and it makes it so much more materially important what Neo and the crew of the Nebuchadnezzar are doing, and how much like the governance relies on this sort of like mythos of this entity. It like very quickly switches from like a completely individualistic piece to something that's more built on what you do for your community and how you rise up together, you know, like even in the something as arbitrary as the Morpheus's speech that leads to sort of like the religious right sex party, whatever you want to call it. I sat back and I was like, you know, on a tactics level, just as like a military like entity, this is such a good idea, because more than likely your population will swell because of this. At some point, you know, like if there are survivors in a couple months, there will be more survivors. Yeah. And all of a sudden I was just thinking about
it's your last chance to fuck people.
Not only is it like shake the rafters, show them that we are not afraid, like we are doing psychological warfare within by like asserting our might, but also optionally swelling our numbers, like just in case, you know, like a handful of us arrive and some of them are carrying the next generation, probably a good idea. You know, and then to like strip even just like the punkness away from it, the internal struggle of like man versus machine, like who actually controls who in the situation. You're also kind of presented with an internal story from the position of the Wachowskis. Mm-hmm. And I saw this so much, like Keanu looks so femme. Mm-hmm. In this, and it is not an accident.
No,
it is.
His femme and Trinity is sort of butch.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They very much like read incredibly sapphic. Just like on a glance, you're just like, oh wow, pretty meet pretty. I thank you. You know, and it's dense like that. You know, and I think it's really worth investigating with a critical eye. Is someone who's thinking about like who made this, what state they were in, you know, and sort of like what does it mean when we're talking so deeply about who controls whom in a system, you know? Like you can translate it to politic, like who really controls this world, the owning class, the worker class. Like the workers stop working, not a single wheel can turn, you know, but like the military might of the owning class would come down.
I've always seen a parallel between the Matrix and the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
In a very similar way.
Yeah. Just like the division of a planet based on it's arbitrary nonsense because the machines love and they feel and they fear and they have ambition. You know, like if you prick them, do they not bleed? In the Matrix, absolutely. You know, there's just so much to it's so good. It's just go watch it all again with an eye to love it, and you will find it.
I want to amend a statement I said earlier about how the first Matrix was too smart for its own good. That's not a good enough description. What I mean by that is the original Matrix had so much mystery. It was impossible to reproduce that in the later movies because the whole point of that mystery was to be revealed. And once revealed, it was to build on the politic that you were talking about. And that is not something you can recreate. In a similar way, I think, like, I have an expectation, and stick with me here, for the sequel to Knives Out. Knives Out 1 was phenomenal. And every time I watch it, I still enjoy it. But I know the solution. I know what's coming. And because it's made well, it's still interesting. I am purposely lowering my expectations for the sequel. I know it will be good because I love Rian Johnson, but I also know that you can't do the same thing twice. He has to do something different, something similar, but something different to make it interesting still. And there is nothing wrong with how the Wachowskis approached the sequel part 1 and part 2 of The Matrix. I think the problem was our expectations more than anything else, because we wanted another mystery. We wanted to believe in Neo the way we did again, like all of that stuff. And you can't put that back in the bag. It is what it is. And it's just building on it in a way that makes the world interesting. And I think they did.
If I may, I think part of the challenge of making multi-film universe building, world building, like expansive universe stuff is the internet and fan expectation.
Yeah.
Because The Matrix, as it was the first real time, it was an era where things like left the news group, where people were actually not only just, it was very everywhere. It was a huge hit. I'm sure they were very glad it was a hit, but I think it was still something of an unexpected hit.
Yes, absolutely.
And they jumped on the Animatrix. So we had like a little DVD bit. I don't remember if that was between the first and the second, or if that was between the second and the third, but it came out on DVD and in the theaters briefly before then, between. And then that spiraled into other world building, because those were all based on other realities that didn't ever pan out in the show or the films, because it wasn't what it was about. So you had all of these angry nerds. Same problem with Star Wars, the same problem with, any multi film franchise, especially if it's adapted from something, that are going to suddenly not get what they wanted or what they expected, and they're going to be dicks about it. And unfortunately, sci-fi is very dick inviting.
Yes.
And what I love about the Matrix specifically, and it's been frankly years since I've watched any of them, possibly because I got a little turned off by some of the vitriol of folks around it. It's another reason that I haven't revisited Fight Club in a long time. Is now knowing what the two women who were writing it and directing it were going through, and then looking at it through those eyes, and sort of folks sort of felt the dicks still felt a little bait and switched, a little mad that, like, wait, that's not what I wanted to be thinking about. I wanted to be thinking about something else. And you learn the motivations behind filmmakers and what they challenge, or maybe not. Maybe it has nothing to do with what they were going through, but I know that there's a big trans allegory that's been embraced by the internet. And watching something like Bound, which was their first film, and very female gaze, but we didn't necessarily know that at the time, is sort of fascinating. And I wonder also if one part of the legacy is that it got a little murky because it didn't not only fulfill expectations that were never promised. Don't get mad that character never showed up in episode 9 of WandaVision. They never said they were going to.
Yeah.
But we have blogs, and those people thought that there might be, and they're writing fan fiction before the show can come out. But also they like got super preachy, for lack of a better word. They got super religion-y, I think, by the end. By Revelations, we got like straight up Jesus metaphor.
Yeah, it's very messianic, very.
Yeah.
But like, I think messianic in a way that like Superman is a messianic figure.
Oh yeah,
you know,
totally,
like,
absolutely.
In the same, like I think that Neo enters sort of like what is archetypally the sacrificial deity, you know, and I don't think it is necessarily as linked to like Neo is Jesus. It's like, no, Neo is a story that we tell ourselves to keep going.
Right.
You know, it's really interesting the number of times that characters not in scenes with Neo call on Neo. It's wild to go and like clock that and be like, you're praying to your friend.
Yeah.
Witchcraft. You're praying.
I was working
to
in
your
IT
friend.
only like 3 weeks ago.
Struggling at a day job. Let's pray to him. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a hyper intelligence to the Wachowskis that I think is to be respected and admired and to be lauded and like
to be feared.
But like, there are some of my favorite moments within the franchise or even outside of the movies. Like, you know, they made Enter the Matrix, which was a game that disappointed a lot of folks just because mechanically it didn't work well and the story stuff was so great, but was separated by tedious mechanical bits. And if it were more of a narrative walking sim, actually, like they make now, it probably would have been a lot better. But after that, and after the trilogy was over, they went back and they made the Matrix game that everyone clamored for, which was one surrounding Neo, called Path of Neo. And what's wild to me about that game is at the end, so in the movie, when he fights Agent Smith, like there's that, you know, they have their Superman, Dragon Ball Z battle, whatever, and then it ends. But like in the game, they're like, well, what we designed for the movie wouldn't be great for a video game. So instead, we made up a completely different boss, and you fight a giant mecha Smith made up of other Smiths.
Cool.
Because, and what happens before that scene is literally the Wachowskis in like avatar form, like pixel form, come on screen and tell you why they did this. And that's so brilliant to me. And it's in such concert with all the other stuff that they did in this series. I think that they were aware of what they were doing, and Victor absolutely hit the nail on the head. Just because they knew what they were doing and you misunderstood what they were doing doesn't mean that it's bad. It means that you were wrong. But as we all know,
wrong. It's okay if you guessed wrong.
Yeah, even nicer. You were mistaken, and that happens all of the time.
All of the time.
Half of movies ever created are based on people being mistaken in some way.
That's farce.
That's farce. Ta-dam! You did it. Your life is a farce.
But as we know, the internet is so good at humbly accepting the mistakes they've made and not doubling down on bashing the thing instead. Anyway,
they're really, really good.
They're really good at it. But yeah, no, I agree with you, Rachel, and I think that they are worth revisiting. And I'm curious how people, if you're listening to this right now, listener, and you have not watched any of the Matrix movies, watch them and report back to us. What do you think? Because I think removed of the hype engine, these movies are a lot more favorable, like you're saying, Rachel.
They're really stunning in an understanding of what the world is, what the stakes are. And I'll add to Matt's comment. If you have watched these trilogy and it's been a while, I want you to go back and I want you to watch the Smith arc. I want you to pay a lot of attention to the Smith arc, because if you're paying enough attention to that arc, you will watch Agent Smith become the thing he hates the most.
Yep.
You will watch it, and it is littered in wild CG that is very, very poorly rendered by today's eyeballs, but still trackable. Like, they understood the story they wanted to tell in this choreography. They just didn't have the mechanisms to get it done quite to full effect. It's still there's still gorgeous fight scenes and like just
and they're all available on Peacock.
All available. I watched them for free on Peacock. It felt very much like watching them just like on TNT all of a sudden because it was just like, oh, there's a commercial break. You want to talk about like how pretty Keanu is in this? I can't. Like,
to be fair, Keanu is pretty in everything.
It'll get you just in time for the 4th film that is scheduled for Christmas of this year.
Yeah, supposedly.
It says Warner Brothers will theatrically. I use the internet. Sorry, I don't know if that's cheating.
No, it's not cheating.
Theatrically on December 22nd, 2021, it will also stream on HBO Max. So they already have distribution rights planned out.
Yeah,
I'm sure Peacock's like, son of a bitch.
Coming.
Yeah. Oh, you know those Matrix movies are coming to HBO Max before that movie comes out. The whole trilogy is going to be there.
Like Christina Ricci is going to be in it. Neil Patrick Harris is going to be in it. It's going to be an interesting mix.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But no Lawrence Fishburne.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
that's
Rachel,
okay. He's too busy fighting Keanu and pigeons in another one.
That's true. They are reunited in a different franchise.
Yeah.
It's the John Wick franchise.
Yeah.
They're both from the John Wick franchise. Well, Rachel.
Yes.
If you had to describe the Matrix trilogy without using the words the Matrix or trilogy, see what I did there? What 3 words would you use to describe this incredible trilogy?
Yeah, I've got it. I had it already. Sapphic, messianic mythology.
Ooh, I like that. Excellent. Well done.
You
had it on deck. You were ready to go.
This movie is literally, if you can like divest your brain from like Keanu is a cisgendered man in every way that he is coded in this movie. This is sapphic as hell. Are you kidding me? Sapphic as hell.
Amazing.
Fight me in the subtext, bros.
Bring it.
I've seen that argument.
Your audience stand-in here is a lady.
I've even seen that in like the where his hands go inside Trinity. It's very like cervix friendly, like he restarts the heart. Like I've seen it.
He's so tender.
If you're ever curious about what the internet has decided this film is, Tumblr and Twitter have it down. That's true.
Yeah,
that is true.
Which is so cool, actually, because that's an entire different generation.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you're right. Well, Victor, our illustrious guest, what dear friend have you brought us? What is the most recent thing you have watched?
So I am visiting, as of the time of this recording, I'm visiting from Southern California, and I'm in New Jersey. And while I have not had an opportunity to see a lot of folks in person, one person that I did make sure that I saw was Oliver Swisky, who is a White Elephant Burlesque regular.
Mm-hmm.
Love that
and that was on the under the auspices of me giving a lot of costume materials that I am not taking with me back.
Mm-hmm.
So either things that I've either outgrown or outgrown. You can choose which one I mean. I gave him opportunity, and he currently lives with other White Elephant Burlesque stalwarts, Holly Ween.
Yes.
And one of the things that we used to do, or not, it's so weird to say used to, it was like, a month ago? During the pandemic was watch movies on Monday nights. Via Zoom. So I would log into a streaming service in question, and then we just all screen share, and I would screen share it and we'd watch. So we did a little version of that in person yesterday, as of the time of this, and we watched a film called Hellbent. Because it was on the list of films that were available on this library that Holly had, and it is a 2004 film. It was distributed by the Here Network, which was one of the first premium gay channels. And it is essentially a homoerotic slasher film. So my film to bring to Screen Snark is Hellbent.
Yeah, like I said, Pride is 365. Get over it.
And Halloween is 365. So
absolutely.
And this film does actually take place on well, I called it growing up. I called it Mischief Night, but it is also known as Devil's Night. And interestingly enough, Goosey Night, which is the night before Halloween. And then on Halloween proper, takes place in West Hollywood, where it was also, I looked it up, apparently was also filmed. And it took about like 2 years to make. And part of that was because the filmmakers and the writers had a very clear vision. And it seems like they then settled because they were like, okay, it's been almost 2 years. We really just have to cast this. So this film involves a serial killer or a spree killer, depending on your distinctions, who murders homosexuals and seems to target one specific group, even though the first, like the Drew Barrymores of the film, aren't part of the group as far as we know.
Okay.
So our lead is gorgeous, but doesn't think he's gorgeous.
Of course.
So you know the type, yes.
Yeah, oh, I know the type.
That's giving me
looks
very
in the mirror.
final girl energy already.
Already. Sidney Prescotting all over the place.
Just up and down.
Happens to work for the police department, but cannot be a police officer. But it takes a little while to find out why. Okay. But there is a
conscience, I'd imagine.
It is in fact not a conscience. It is a physical ailment that I was a little disappointed is utterly unexplained. This is the interesting thing about this, is that there's obviously a lot of different versions of slasher films. There's the slasher films that really explain every nuance, every backstory, every motivation. And there are some that are just like, sometimes people are just fucked up and they kill people. And today they're coming for these guys. And this one's definitely more of the latter. No spoiler necessarily, but I will get into a little bit, just FYI.
That's okay.
It's fine by me.
The antagonist, his activity du jour is decapitation. Okay. Although he will also slice you up before then if he needs to. And he uses a sickle. So this is clearly, obviously, an anti-communist allegory.
Obviously. Must be.
Interestingly enough, he is shirtless the entire time.
What?
Yeah.
I can't imagine why.
Well, it works for a couple of reasons, not the least of which is Hollywood. It's Halloween in West Hollywood. Right. He wears a devil mask, so we do not see anything from above his lips. He is white. In fact, everyone in this film is white.
Oh, well.
If you look on the IMDb, evidently that wasn't the plan, but they did not feel that there was a people of color interest in auditioning for the film once they found out it was gay. I don't know how much of that is projection. I don't know how much of that is reality. I think if you don't find them, you better go looking.
Yeah, yes. You need to find better tools to find.
Exactly. But it just so happens that most of the guys are white, all have very pronounced pectoral muscles and abdomens, and coincidentally are all heterosexual. The characters are mostly gay. However, there is a prominent character where it's not necessary, it's his bisexuality isn't glossed over, but it's what I found really fascinating is it's a non-discussion point. In fact, most of their sexuality is a non-discussion point. It's not that it's like where there's a musical called Xanadont where the everyday is that everyone is gay and the ones who are not, the 10% are straight. Here, there very clearly are also straight people around, because there's one gay character who dresses in drag, a total brick. But it's a mainstream film, so they can't let the drag queen be too pretty. We always have to remind the audience that they're a guy. But it's also Halloween, and you know how that can be. Yeah. He is hit on very briefly by someone who very clearly thought he was a woman. And there's no violence, but there's like a moment of like, you tricked me. And it's sort of like, I don't know what your intention was here. It's interesting. And I don't know if I'm meant to think that, maybe he's the killer. No, he's clearly not the killer. He's not wearing the devil's mask and showing his abdomen. So a Halloween on night before Halloween, mischief night. If you're nasty, two guys are getting it on in the back seat of a car, and one of them decides for some reason to get head while the top part of his body is outside the window. It just sort of happens that way, and so his whole torso and above are conspicuously out of shot. This is not, in fact, while exploitative to a degree, not a lot of I think we see a couple asses and thongs, but for the most part, it's not meant to be like a parody or like a sexy movie. It's just a slasher movie with gay guys, which I have to appreciate.
Sure.
So he's getting head from his date or whoever is individual he's with that night, and he gets sliced up. He gets decapitated because his body is outside the car.
If you're going to do that in a horror movie, you should expect these kinds of things.
These are and they broke the slasher rule, which is have sex, get killed.
Yeah,
right.
You can't. Sorry.
It's how it is. Jamie Lee Curtis avoided it for movies to come. And then so that's the first murder. And interestingly enough, it sort of it gave me like Zodiac vibes. They never like really approach that, and they never really like go into that. But it gave me like that sort of concept of like the couple in the car making out, approached by, the maniac. So a couple decapitations later, the heads are taken. There is not a single, as far as I recall, getting head joke.
How dare they?
Again, for lack of a better expression, they do play this movie very straight. So it's sort of fascinating that, like, okay, you didn't go there.
Why?
Do you want to be camp or what? I don't know what your goal is here.
Yeah.
So the guy who can't be a cop, but he like works the desk or something, I don't know, is really infatuated with this other guy, and of course he's so tongue-tied because he is gorgeous, but Clark Kent, and he can't do it. And he's also with these very bro-centric male companions, all of whom are queer, including one bisexual, who we know he's bisexual because he is introduced by leaving a car where he had a threesome, with a heterosexual couple, vaguely heterosexual couple. But okay, no question, no like you're not really gay. Oh, that's what bisexual. That's you're not really bisexual. You're not all this. Sort of a non-issue, not even really discussed. There's a strange sort of protective quality about each of the guys about each other. Mm-hmm. Like one goes out like trying to score at the club, and he's like, "Oh, you left him alone? Why would you do that?" And I'm like, "Oh, y'all are okay. You care about each other, okay?" I mean, he's dead, but I mean, oh, you cared about him. It's sort of fascinating. The styling is very since 2004 and on a budget. Evidently, the club scene, it was filmed in like a Gothic church, and so it's sort of like opening of Blade, but they couldn't afford the blood sprinklers. And it's a Halloween party, and so a lot of mischief goes on, and people get beheaded. If it's important for you to understand the motivation of the killer, I can't say I recommend it. This is far more of like the Black Christmas sort of implication. The killer never speaks. We never see him without the mask. We never see him naked. Like he doesn't. It's not like he fucks these guys to get in on. He doesn't like use that as his body to get in on seducing them and then killing them. He sort of just stalks them all night. He just sort of just watches them, and the choices that they make. It is really interesting because having come to horror movies late as an adult, because I couldn't watch them as a kid, but now that I'm in my late 30s, I have made up for lost time. I could tell a lot of the references that they were making. It very clearly was done with a lot of love and a lot of care, but it's what makes it kind of frankly flaccid is it doesn't go there. Almost none of the guys have a lot of chemistry. There is no sex that actually happens. Them being gay is a non-issue, which some could argue is cool. Some could argue as like, well, then what's the point? And then some could also say, well, what's the point? That's cool, I guess. And it's not hot in any real way. It's not like one of those like late night Showtime movies. It's not. It's really not. And it's sort of impressive they didn't go the parody route, because I've seen gay parody horror.
Yeah.
It almost always is utterly ridiculous, and a lot of times I view parody or homage as an excuse for not knowing how to do things well.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
sort
I
of
would
an
agree with that.
excuse for budget or an excuse for talent. Not that any of these guys are great actors, but they didn't make choices that felt exploitative. I was actually kind of amazed by that. But again, just a guy with a sickle hacking off heads. He's wearing a devil mask and no shirt just 'cause. I don't even know how he gets places. He somehow goes from the park to the club to this. Is he driving? I don't know. Motivation? Well, why do you think that's important?
I get it now. Hellbent. He's wearing a devil mask.
And bent also means queer. No, it's actually it's the cleverest thing about it is the title.
It's the title.
So it's sort of fascinating. It's an odd little film, and it's not necessarily something. It's very like a C+, B- movie.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you loved it. It sounds like you're not sure how you felt about it.
Fascinated with it.
Right,
I'm
sure.
utterly fascinated with it.
I love that.
Sometimes those movies that don't quite get it are what help us understand when it works. You know, like sometimes you need to hear that note off pitch to know when it is correctly in pitch. I love okay movies. I love them. They're just like, this was fine.
It was fine.
It's
a fine way to. I think it's under 90 minutes. It's pretty easy to get through. I will say, minor spoiler: if you have eye issues, reconsider.
Yeah.
If you have decapitation issues, not that it's particularly realistic, but it is graphic. We do see a bunch of headless dudes. If you're expecting like late night Showtime, you're not even gonna get that.
This sounds very much like friends who really love horror movies got together to make their own.
Movie. I mean, even even the moment where you thought there would be a sex scene because they're literally making out on a bed. He even says, "What, you want to fuck me?" And he goes to get condoms, and more mischief occurs. I was like, okay, we're finally gonna get the payoff. No. I thought at least we were gonna get mid coitus. Oh, and the devil shows up during or something, but no, it's sort of
just like this love scene happening, and then the killer shows up, and one of these coital beings is like, honey, you gotta tell me.
He doesn't show up during coitus. He literally shows up while he's looking for condoms.
You know?
And again, we don't know. I thought, okay, so maybe the devil is homophobic, or he's wrestling with some sort of body image issue. Oh, does he know the guys? Why is it only these guys he seems to be after?
And you never find out.
Because even as messy and as wonderful as Jennifer's body is, I think that you can tie some threads between the horror elements of that and this sexual trauma that Jennifer went through. It's not as concrete as the thematic imagery of other horror movies. You know, it follows. It's absolutely about safe sex and STDs, your and also your sexual maturity. There's so much childlike imagery within that piece, because it is reconciling the journey from child to sexual adult, and all of the dangers that come with that, and Jennifer's body is kind of sweatily doing that, in more ways than one. Mostly me watching Jennifer's body
sweating.
Sweating. But you know, at least like you can make an argument. It's hard to find like what the thematic avenue of this piece is, because I always think that really great horror is also about a facet of humanity.
Sure.
It sounds like this was just...
It's not even like Halloween, where it's like the fear of the unknown. He's not a boogeyman. He's just a guy in a devil's outfit who hacks off heads for some reasons. It just so happens it's these 5 gay guys.
Yeah.
It's odd. It's odd in that respect.
It's a happenstance horror movie.
Yeah, a force of nature horror movie.
Yes, actually, I saw a great term. I looked at. I wanted to confirm I didn't miss anything, and just say we never found out why he wanted to just hack off heads. Right? We didn't find that out. No, we didn't. Short answer is no, we didn't. But I found on the fandom.com site they refer to him as a karma Houdini.
Ooh.
And I had never heard that term before.
Me neither.
Evidently, it's a villain who is not punished or isn't sufficiently punished for their evil actions. And therefore, the story, when it ends, he's not really defeated. So Michael Myers is an example. The Joker is an example. They just Hannibal Lecter. It's sort of fascinating. I'd never heard that term before, but I like it.
That's a good one. That's a good term. Well, Viktor Devonne, if you had to sum up the glory that is Hellbent in just 3 words, and you can't use the word Hellbent, I assume it's one word.
In this case, yes.
How? Right, because hell and bent are also 2 words, and you can't use them either. How would you describe this movie in just 3 words?
I'm gonna go with shirtless.
Good one.
Slasher.
Okay.
Tribute.
Okay. Shirtless slasher tribute. I like that.
I mean, it really is. It's a tribute to the quintessential slasher film where they don't spend a lot of character development, and it just so happens that they're just not wearing any shirts.
There you go.
All right. There you go. Well, Viktor, thank you for bringing us that movie.
You're welcome.
If you want to know about Viktor's long and storied, brilliant past, you can go to the first episode of this series if you haven't listened to it already. Or you can actually check out his podcast, We Burlesque the Podcast, where he chats with other nightlife individuals about their history, and you find out a little bit more about his history in every episode too.
Had both of you on, haven't
you?
You
have.
It was a delight.
It was a delight. It's one of my favorite shows to do. But I did want to ask Viktor, since we have you on, and I've known you for a long time, loving horror movies, even though you got into them later, and it's kind of become your thing.
Yeah.
What to you makes the perfect horror movie? Because, like, I'm someone who comes to horror more recently, and I still struggle with it. But movies like Get Out and Us, I really like. And there's been a few others that I've watched also that have been good, more modern stuff. But, like, what do you need to really enjoy a horror movie for it to feel like a horror movie for you? Because I feel like it's different person to person, right?
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the benefits of coming to horror as a genre late is that I don't have any nostalgia associated with a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So I feel a little bit more objective. Because I think a lot of horror is beloved when it's schlocky.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of horror is, for me, horror growing up was Universal Monsters. And it wasn't that I was scared of them. It was just that happens to be the genre. They were gothic horror. One of my favorite films still, top 50, is Dracula with Bela Lugosi. It's just a really well-made, great created film. I still lean heavy into the occult because I find that leads into a believable ridiculousness that I still find somewhat comforting. And that could be anything from something like culty, like Midsummer, or The Exorcist is a classic example. There's something very comforting about supernatural fuckery, as it were. Partially because humans I still find to be some of the most terrifying elements of the world. And since I didn't live in a particular rural area, even wild animals aren't like high on my list of fear. So Cujo never, I mean, I know that's not rural per se, but I never grew up like watching like Animal Attack. I think the closest I got to was there was like this period of like insect attack movies, like ants and killer bees and things like that. Which frankly are a little probably.
I don't like.
I don't do great on home invasion films, although living in an apartment has made that a lot easier for me. Having lived in a multi-story house where I very often was by myself on the second floor or the third floor, and hearing any sound, like, oh, great. To the point where it has informed my relationships with either housemates or now my husband, where I'm like, if you get up in the morning, just make normal noise. Don't try to hide it. I don't want to wake up to someone hiding their sound. Like, I don't want that. That's too much for me.
Yeah. So like, don't creep in our house, because then I'm gonna think someone's creeping in our house.
I just want to hear dishes clanging. That no serial killer is gonna come in and do my dishes. It's fine. And if they are, bless them. So I guess the most horror movie of that. The most successful to me are I like self-aware, but I don't want. I love campy. I'm a gay man. I can't help it. So Italian giallo horror films have been a lot of fun for me to explore. But I think the most is create a world. Give me as much information as possible to be entertained. I don't need to know everything about the demon or the coven or what have you. If it's multi-film like Paranormal Activity, cool. I'll take what I get as we go. I need something that will sort of make me feel that it's all worth it. I don't want to feel like I'm like, okay, so why did you go through all of that? Like, I watched End of Days, I want to say it was called. Maybe not End of Days. That sounds like a Schwarzenegger movie. The Ninth Gate. That's it. With Johnny Depp. And the whole thing, it's like, by the time we get to the resolution, I'm like, y'all did all that for that? That was the sacrifice? Like, really? So I really want to feel, you want to be
rewarded
for your time.
Yeah. I said this a couple episodes ago, like, the greatest gift that an audience is giving you as a creator of a 90-minute to an hour to 2-hour piece is their time. This is precious. Don't waste it. Think about it. Think about, like, what you are giving someone an existence for 2 hours. Like, give them something. Give them a gift.
And you don't necessarily give me, like, the full like Rosemary's Baby is a really great horror film. But it ends when the baby's born. Like, I mean, we don't see the Antichrist, if that's what we're meant to believe it is all along. Yeah. We don't see the end game. That's okay.
Yeah.
Just give me a satisfying, like, thud moment. And the dinner party at the Rosemary's Baby film is a great thud moment. It's a great thud moment. And I want a lot of old broads. Give me some witty old broads. They could be witches. They could be fortune tellers. Yeah.
I would like to add to my laundry list, because all of these that Victor's saying, good wet puppets.
Who doesn't love a good wet puppet?
I love a wet puppet.
A wet puppet. Can you give me an example of a wet puppet?
Like a gremlin.
Ooh.
Like a good, like, mostly I just really like a good, like, practical effect somewhere.
Same. Yes.
You know, just like, give that to me. That's always worth my time. Like, give me the human gooey center of this. Like, this is actually a piece about grief. Like, this is a piece about race relations in America. This is about fear of the unknown. You know, like, always, like, pepper it with something that, like, you walk away from and you're like, oh, okay, cool. This was about a guy doing murders, but it's more about, like, self-identity and, like, who is the monster. Like,
give me an allegory.
Put some allegory in it.
My follow-up question before we go, Victor, is, instead of giving someone your favorite movie, because odds are your favorite horror movie is going to be a movie that everyone's heard of, what do you think is a required horror watch for those who might not have seen it? Is there something you've seen over the years besides the glory?
I love that you've pinpointed me as a horror person. When I'm such a casual horror fan, really, I'm passionate about it, but I
know, but also we haven't had a lot of passionate horror watchers on the show.
Cool. And also, I think the first episode I did say that my favorite overall film is still Clue.
Yes,
and that does remain to be the case. I do love speaking of Knives Out and all that, I do.
You love a good murder mystery?
Not just a murder mystery. Give me a mansion and a bunch of folk. I just reintroduced a friend of mine to Ready or Not, which is a lot of fun. Also occulty, and takes place in a mansion. Always good to me. A film. Well, it depends on taste, because I think I'm very respectful of genre specificity. So if someone says that they want to laugh or they want something, I'm a big fan of the Scream series. I love all of them, if not equally the same, roughly the same. I appreciate all of them. I'll say that. My favorite, in fact, is Scream 2 of them. Go back a little bit, I would say. Rosemary's Baby is a great example. The Exorcist, I know that's an obvious choice too.
Yeah.
If you're looking for obscurity, I'm thinking. Check out some Giallo. It's sort of fascinating to find out how many references even your non-horror favorite directors are. Clearly looked at those in film school or just in general. It's really fascinating, and the way some of them are shot is really impressive, because it's all the way that it's all about the cinematography, and it's all about the color choices and the palette, and that's really fascinating to sort of explore as well.
I love that. All right, thank you, Victor.
My pleasure.
Well done. Well, don't go anywhere just yet. Rachel and I are going to thank a few folks.
Yes.
We're going to give you an opportunity to plug your stuff, and then we will ask you for the second time the final question.
Okay.
So, first, let us thank some folks.
Yeah, thank you first and foremost to John Presnell for the use of the song Aurora off the album Fair Game featuring Stefan Rimble.
Also, also, thank you to the incredible Katie Bug, who designed our very awesome show art. Thank you very much.
And thank you to the Certain Point of View Podcast Network for once again putting us to work here on Screen Snark. You can hang out with everyone from our beautiful network over on our Discord server. We're talking over there. I don't know what the current discourse is, but it's probably great. Get out of that Twitter discourse and get into our Discord.
Discourse. Yeah. You can find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on certainpov.com, along with every other single podcast on this incredible network. If you have a moment, please write us a review. Rate us on your podcast platform of choice. It does help us to get featured and more people to find the show. Also, if you want to send us a missive, you can write us at screensnarkpod@gmail.com. We will guaranteed read those emails. We might even do something with them after. Who knows? It's a mystery.
There you go. Now for plugs for Victor. For Victor, do plug.
Okay.
Please tell folks where they can find you on the internet.
All over.
Okay. And a last minute film recommendation. Us. Us.
Us is phenomenal.
I have yet to see it.
You gotta watch it.
I kind of took a break from heavy movies for a year for reasons.
That's legit.
It's medium heavy. Lift with your legs.
Oh yeah, no, it was all Ghibli movies and musicals for the coping.
But in terms of where folks can find me, weburlesque.com will, generally speaking, link you to everywhere you need to go. But if you're feeling spicy on a different app, Weburlesque and Victor, that's VIKTORDEVONNE, on pretty much everything. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I just created an account on Letterboxd, so if you want to see me comment on some movies, I've begun that.
Huzzah.
Huzzah.
And We Burlesque the podcast is available on all platforms. Pretty much. We're now on Audible of all things, so that was pretty neat. Yeah, that was startling. And that's a lot of fun to do. We're in the middle of season 5, where I get to talk to burlesquers and other nightlife people about what we do, why we do it, and at the moment, what it was like to not do it last year, and how we coped and what we did instead of that. It's actually been a pretty interesting cross section of folk. I'm very pleased and heartened that I've been part of the documentation of what this era has been like for entertainers. And there's got to be something. Right now, We Burlesque is still doing digital shows. So you can go to weburlesque.com to see when the next one is. So
awesome.
That's it.
Go do all of that.
Please do.
Please. Also, a big thank you to Victor. Victor is one of the earliest podcasts to run ads for this very show, and we're thankful for that.
Yeah.
He is a delight, and we run ads for his as well. I can almost guarantee I will send one to Rachel when she's editing, so we can run one on this one.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun.
Listen
I did
for the ad.
I got to
It
do
knows just what to do to get you to Victor.
For Pride Month. I watched a bunch of movies, and unfortunately, the one that I did with Storm didn't make the final cut because of technical issues. But I was able to do a bunch of like audio commentaries while watching movies, which I think I teased the idea of in my first episode of Autographs with you, Storm.
Probably.
Like it was that long ago.
Sounds about right.
But I got to watch like But I'm a Cheerleader and Paris is Burning and Cabaret and Hedwig and the Angry Inch and some great movies. Those are available on Patreon. I'm right now offering just $1 subscription to anyone who wants to access all of them. And you get to watch the movie with us. Yeah. I had to put it behind a paywall because I didn't want us to get flagged, even though technically it is fair use because we're commenting on it. I just didn't want to get flagged for like any.
Yeah, because it's still
a movie.
Yeah, like
we're talking over it.
Copyright law on the internet is such a loaded thing that can be used by the powerful against the not powerful. So protect yourself behind that paywall. You have Screen Snark support for that.
So that's all available right now too. So folks should check that out.
Please do. Yeah. And now, Rachel, you should ask our guest our final question.
Yes. I just had the nightmare scenario moment where I was like, I should have gone back to hear what Victor said the trope was the first time to see if it was still the same. But I didn't. But I'm gonna insert it later. Maybe. I probably not. Go back and listen to the whole episode. Give us the minutes. Anyway, you picked one long ago. The audience knows what it is. We don't. But they'll know if it's different than now. So, Victor, if you had to choose one trope from television or movies to instantly and magically be true in your life, which one would you choose?
I will choose a different answer. So those who listened before, it'll still be a different one. I would like to be able to photographically or videographically recall exactly a previous moment from whenever as a flashback moment in my brain. Even if I can't necessarily articulate it or show it to anybody else, or we can't all experience, I would like to just be able to revisit it myself whenever I choose to, and not with the understanding that it's probably tainted by my own perspective. But that's all I really care about. Anyway.
You want the power of JD.
I just want
look off into the distance and remember.
I just want to remember anything. How about that? Can we?
Can we remember stuff? I don't remember shit. My memory sucks. And got worse during the pandemic.
But I still maintain that the one I chose, the first episode, is still my preferred one. But I'll leave that. I'll leave that a mystery.
You know what? You get a second one now.
Now you have two.
We the gods of this
unstoppable
podcast. Then you have both.
This is a fine podcast.
They're both yours now.
It's a fine podcast.
That's exactly what's been happening this whole time. Plot twist: these tropes have been coming true for our guests.
What? I want to thank our incredible guest, Victor Devonne, again. Thank you for being
Victor.
here. We love you so much.
And
Thank you.
I also want to thank my gorgeous, effervescent, and brilliant co-host, Rachel Quirky Shank.
And I want to thank my sapphic messianic mythology co-host, Matt, aka Stormageddon.
Gee, I guess this is a bit now.
It's been a bit.
It's been a bit. It's been a bit
of
for a
something,
bit.
I'll tell you that.
Hang
on. I promised Stormageddon a fan clack. There we go.
Oh.
Yeah, bam. Just like that.
Beautiful.
And of course, I want to thank you, incredible listeners. Thank you for being here on this ride with us. 75 episodes strong and continuing on. We will see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere. Bye-bye.
Nostalgia is one of the strongest forces in the human psyche and is responsible for the continued existence of some of our favorite fandoms. From the minds behind the Dole Up in Dreams podcast and Isolation Cast Voices from Quarantine, Saturday Morning Confidential takes you on a deep dive into the properties that helped influence the artists and creators of today. So whether you are a Goonie, a Gem Girl, a Digi-Destined, or you just want to return to Oz, new episodes release on Fridays bi-weekly starting January 1st of 2021, and join us on the Wednesdays after the main show for the Serial Killer Radio Hour, where we sit down with the people responsible for the toys, shows, and fandoms that you love. Now you can find Saturday Morning Confidential at certainpov.com/SMCpod or on your favorite podcast platforms. So don't forget to tune in for another deep dive into the files of Saturday Morning Confidential.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.